Hello, Lam here. Today I'm going to do a quick tutorial using the Unity UI system. Not going to do an overview of the entire thing because there's so many aspects to it. It would take many videos, or this one video would take a few hours. So what I'm going to look at today, something I've actually been working on myself, is basically getting a UI set up that will take input and display it on an output. Show you a demonstration over here. Basically, you've got an output window here, an input window here. So if you click in here, type in "Hello World," why not? And it'll display it up here. And the way it's set up, it will recurse so that it will basically add in more lines each time. So you see the point. It just it looks as if it's scrolling down, although technically what it's doing is just remembering all the previous text and just adding to it each time. But you'll see that in a moment. So I'm going to create a new scene so that you can see how I've built this UI setup. I'm going to do it really quickly and roughly. I'm not concentrating on the actual building part. It's more the scripting I want to go over. Because obviously once you get the script down, you can implement this in any way. I mean, I've got this set up looking like a CLI or sort of text adventure. You could easily retrofit this to be like a chat window or something in a smaller part of a larger game. So what we'll do is just create a new scene in here just to make it easier. Sure, didn't think I made any changes, but so blank slate. What we'll do first of all in the hierarchy is right click UI and add a canvas. That's the sort of bottom layer of all UI systems. Just quickly check my notes. I don't want to keep having to run over myself. Okay, on the canvas, there's a few things we want to do before we do anything else. First, we want to put the render mode to camera overlay. Yep, and then put the main camera onto the render camera here. Okay, and the camera. Is that all we want to do? Yeah, the camera, we want to set that to orthographic, and then we'll see the actual camera's frame is actually the same. And if you look, because it's an orthographic, if you look in 2D mode with the camera selected, you'll see that it has that infinite depth thing for orthographic cameras, because there is no depth, which is perfect. As a UI system generally is 2D. So switch that background. Okay, so that's the canvas and that's the camera sorted. Right, okay, back to the canvas. I'm going to create two panels, UI, and they are panels. Here we go. 1, 2, and just to make things, just to make things easy to see exactly what's going on, and you should probably do this in your own projects as well. Just rename this stuff, make it make sense, because there's enough going on in here that will make it insane. Okay, so we've got an output and an input page. So first of all, we're going to do, well, let's just resize them. The output pane, we want it to be at the top, but not the full size. So let's take it up to about there. I'm just eyeballing this. It really doesn't matter. I mean, if you're going to be using something similar to this, then you'll obviously do it to your own constraints. I'm not going to change any of the constraints at all in this. Just get this done as quickly as possible. And now we've got that. Let's quickly change the colors around. Oh, can't remember the alpha. Change that, and the input, change that. I think this gets set later anyway once we set up the input box. So okay, so we've got that. Output needs yeah, just a text box. What we'll do is we'll stretch this out, not to the exact edge. It's a little bit horrible if you put it right to the edge. The text just goes right up against the side, and it makes it difficult to read. So put it a little bit in, and it makes it a little bit nicer. So the text, the color here, I've got a preset green, just so that sort of old school CLI look. So set the text to green, and we'll clear the text out. We don't really want any text just now because that's what we're going to put in through our input window. Font size, you can bump that up a little bit. You could put it up to 16. Yeah, should be doing. But I'll put that up to 20. So I'm not sure how well this is going to be visible in on the video. Oh, that looks okay. Okay, we'll leave it, all the alignment, all that to default, that's fine. Okay, so I believe okay, so that's just done with the output window, so I'll minimize that for now. Onto the input window where the fun begins. Here we want to add not a text window, we want an input field. The input field itself adds two things, it's a placeholder and text. I believe you need to keep the placeholder as well as the text. I'm not entirely sure why, but if you delete the placeholder, you tend to have nothing. I think that the placeholder perhaps has some more of a special function that I'm just not aware of, but anyway. Oh, that was silly. Input field, we want to increase this again, not entirely to the edge, on each corner. Input field normal color, I think it is. Yes, change that back to black. And now in the actually no, sorry, we don't want it to be black. We want it to be slightly grey so that we can see that it's actually a different area, that something you can interact with that's different from the rest of it. So we'll change that to slight grey. Placeholder, we'll kill off the enter text. You can leave that in if you want, obviously it's up to yourself. The colour, again I'm going to switch it to green, and we'll choose best fit, which means that when we actually have text in here, it'll stretch it as much as it feels is necessary. We could possibly actually increase that. We get something bigger perhaps. Oh, hello. Yes, it's much bigger. You could definitely read that. Okay, so placeholder is done. Text change color, best fit. Okay, onto the text window. Now this is where you will actually be typing in text once you run it, I believe. We'll check in a second. Again, we want the best fit. Let's put that. What did I have on there? Just mimic basically the placeholder. 90 green and okay, and that's change it. Okay, now we'll just quickly run it just so you get an idea of what we'll see here. Okay, and now we've got an output window, nothing in it, an input window which highlights. You can change the colours on that again, it makes little difference, but click into it. Oh no, we do want to change the colours, sorry. Type in hello, hit enter. Oh, nothing happens because we've not got a script yet. So that's next. We'll quickly change these colors though. It's the input field and it's highlighted color. I think we want that to be a bit of a grey as well. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so on to the script. Now I do have the original script here, but I'm just going to recreate it again because it really is quite straightforward really. Once you see how it runs, you should be able to adapt it from there. We'll just call this text input and I'll open that up. That's fine, reload that. Now, this isn't a regular sort of object class because this is basically only going to get run when you're interacting, when there's actually an event. So we can get rid of the update method here. Just consult with my notes. Yes, just the start function and another function. Because we're going to write a secondary function which allows this to be a more adaptable script. Means you basically will call on this function to add in the text that you're specifying as a parameter. That way you can reuse this for what other nefarious purposes you may have. Anyway, so text input, model behavior. One thing, because we're using the UI, we need to put in using Unity editor dot nope, not Unity editor, Unity engine dot UI. Otherwise, nothing will work. And we've got 3 member variables to be putting in here. One is of type InputField, and we'll call this input. Keep it nice and simple. And now we've got another one which is InputField dot submit event. Oops, call this SE. Oh, perhaps if I spell things right. SE for submit event. Makes sense? Good. And lastly, we have a public text output. Now we've made this public because in the inspector we will add in the output window, the text component, or sorry, the text child of the output window. It'll make sense in a minute. We're calling this output because effectively it will be the output, and that makes more sense for when we're recording the rest of this. Okay, so that's the member variables, and onto the start method. Let's go. Input equals. Well, basically we need to set input up. I mean, technically we could have done this in the same way as the output, but I wanted to sort of mix and match it around. So what we're going to do is game object, and we're going to get the component. Oops, get component input field. It's a method call. So that will get. Let me just remember how this works. This script will be attached to the input field. Yes, it will be attached to it here. So we'll do that just now. Attach that here. So our text input script will be on the input field. So this is basically just saying the current game object, get this component, the input field. Yeah? Hope that makes sense. If you do have any questions about anything I'm doing here, anything I'm maybe not making clear, please just leave a comment. I'm more than happy to try and clarify my ramblings. Okay, so next we want to create the event for the input field. So submit event, we want that to be a new input field submit event. Yeah. So we're just initializing a new input field submit event for SE. And then se.add listener. And what we'll do is this is a method that will basically how to explain this? Basically, when there's an event, this is looking for the method to call to. It's basically you're telling it what to do when this event triggers. So this listener is waiting for that event. That goes, it knows, right, I'm going to go to this method, which we're going to call it submit input, and it will complain in just a second because submit input doesn't exist. Now, one of the things I do like about Visual Studio is if you do have things like that you've not quite implemented yet, you can click on them, you get this little, I don't know what that is, it looks like a piece of paper that's raining. That doesn't make any sense to me, but seemingly it means to create things. So if you click on that, it gets you the option to create a method stub, which saves you a bunch of typing, which is great. So we can delete the throw, we don't need that. We'll come back to that in just a second. Just want to finish off the start method. And there's one last thing here, which is to do input dot on end edit equals SE. What that does is it basically sets up what event to call once it's been submitted. So it knows to actually, this is basically setting up the event. This bit actually calls the event when something happens. So basically when you hit enter, it goes, oh, it's ended the edit. So I'm going to basically start working on SE. For lack of a better explanation, I'm pretty sure there will be one. Okay, so that's the start method. Now, moving on to the submit input. Now you'll see that this has been set up to take a string, which is by default called arg0 or argument 0. Excuse me. So we will be using that. Yep. And it's void because there's nothing to return. It's just going to do a thing and then that's it. Job's done. Okay, so in here, this is where we start manipulating the string that basically comes from the input field. So this submit input is basically taking whatever's in the input field and submitting it into this method as a string, which comes through as arg0. So what we'll do, first of all, the other thing we're going to do, like I showed in the sort of beginning sort of demo, is that it remembers what was written previously and basically just adds to it. So we need to basically take a copy of what is already in the output window before we add anything to it. Otherwise, all it does is overwrite each time. So first thing we need to do is add a string call that current text, and that will be the output that we declared up here. Output dot text dot to string. We need to do it to string because well, it's a change of type basically. We need it to be a string. Output is output dot text. Provides a string. Text. That might not be entirely necessary, but I did play around with this a lot, so I'm going to trust myself that that is necessary. Take my word for it that that is needed, although it does look as if output.text is already a string. You know what? Let's just leave that out for a minute and put a little note in there just in case things don't work. That'll remind me to actually fix it, but that should actually work. I don't know how many times I've said that when I've been coding things, but yeah, well, this is an interesting experiment. Deviating off the beaten path. This is going to turn out well. Okay, so next line, got a string again, and this time we've got new text, which is basically this line is going to basically be our concatenation of the old or the current text and the new text. So we've got string new text, that'll be current text plus line break. That's a breaking character, /n for new line basically. Then plus arg0. Okay, so all we're doing here is getting the current text, which we get from here, which is already on the output window, taking that, putting in a line break, so moving on to the new line down here, and then adding in this string from up here. Okay, so that sets it to new text, but that hasn't actually applied it to the output window yet. So the next line is what we're going to do there. It's going to be output.text equals new text. Yes, okay. Now, nearly done, 2 more lines. We also want to keep the input window active, but we want to clear out what we had in there already. Otherwise you have to do it yourself and it's just annoying. So next 2 lines we've got input.text equals quote quote. There may be a better way of doing that, I haven't found it. I would have expected an input text dot clear or dot null. No. Anyway, this works. So that just basically enters nothing into the input text, which is exactly what we want. And last but not least, input dot activate InputField method, and that basically just activates the input field again so that you can just start typing, hit enter, typing, enter, typing, enter, like you would in a chat system or a command window or something. So that should be that. We'll save that and go back to Unity. Now we've already applied the script here. Oops, I've lost it. Input field. Now we'll see the output is now there. What we want to do is drag the text window for output into that, and that should be us good to go. No null references, that's always a good start. So click in here, type in hello, hit return, boom. Oops. Well, can't believe me. So that's that. That's pretty much the whole crux of it. I guess the going back to the part I wasn't entirely sure of, I have a feeling I was using this for other purposes in my own program, and that may be why I needed the toString. I don't recall. I'll go and check my own code to see if that needs to be there or not. Get a little bit of optimization back, you know, all those kilobytes. Okay, so that's that. Again, if you do have any questions about this or anything related to it, please let me know. If you have any suggestions on other videos on the UI system or any other sort of aspects of Unity that you want to know more on, please let me know. It's always good to have a sort of target for these kind of videos. Let's see, what kind of time we had here. How long has that been? 25 minutes? Damn. Okay. Right, I'll leave it there then. Please, if you have gained anything from this, I would really appreciate the subscribe and comments, likes, all that kind of jazz. So thanks.